Greetings and welcome to a Treasury of Massachusetts House Museums and Historical Organizations, a joint venture between me, Bill Hosley, my Housing Our History Facebook site, and Massachusetts Historical Society. Too rarely said, but house museums and historicals are by far the largest segment of the museum industry. There are thousands and thousands are amazing, some more than others. The sector struggles. Many orgs are poor, and almost everything in the current form of philanthropy and agency support is aligned against them. Collectively, they are nothing short of a civic miracle. Then in 2002, encouraged by the National Trust's marketing department, Trust CEO Richard Moe launched the Too Many House Museums movement. You can check out my YouTube channel for more details, but my sense from day one is that this campaign was rife with cluelessness and opportunism. There is rarely a hint that the champions of the Too Many movement get out much or have seen even 5% of what a place like Massachusetts has to show for itself. Collectively, they are nothing short of a civic miracle. Then in 2014, Ruth Graham at the Boston Globe became the first journalist in America to welcome a dissenting point of view, me in this case, to the table to make an advocacy argument. Here we are 6 years later with this three-part series of webinars on Massachusetts house museums and historical organizations. And let's face it, there is no better place in the U.S. to do this, because not only does Mass have the most per capita, but they are among the pioneers and originators of the genre. As a little background, the Society for the Preservation of New England Antiquities, now Historic New England, was added as early as 1909 with a charismatic, visionary founder, William Sumner Appleton. The idea spread, and over time, Historic New England amassed a renowned network of house museums. At Historic New England, they come in various types. Famously, Abbott Lowell Cummings and Richard Nylander's restoration of the Harrison Gray Otis House in the 1960s wrote the book on painstakingly documented restoration and furnishing. Their Josiah Quincy House is a time capsule from the 19th century, a palimpsest, layer upon layer of family history, perhaps the rarest and most precious thing of all, recently given a state-of-the-art restoration aimed at intensifying and clarifying the very qualities that make it special. None of this is new. Since 1909, Paul Revere's house has been a public treasure and long one of the star attractions on Boston's Freedom Trail. What's not to love about President John Adams' Peacefield, a National Park Service site, a house museum that is also a time capsule, not a restoration, almost unheard of among presidential sites. This week we're looking at authors' houses, and we'll hear from our friends at the Emily Dickinson House Museum in Amherst, the John Greenleaf Whittier Birthplace in Haverhill, and Orchard House in Concord, home of Louisa May Alcott and the setting for her famous Little Women. Concord was famously home to several of our giants of American literature, and there are sites and or collections associated with most of them, including Henry David Thoreau, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and this, the home of Ralph Waldo Emerson, scrupulously preserved by his daughter Ellen, shown here. The Trustees, a Massachusetts-based 130-year-old conservation land trust that owns and operates a handful of house museums, preserves and presents the boyhood home and summer residence of William Cullen Bryant, one of the 19th century America's most influential literary lions. It's located in the Highlands hill town of Cummington, just 6 miles from the Shaw Hudson House, featured in our last episode. In Yarmouth is the Edward Gorey House, a perfect year-round experience of the macabre, home of one of the 20th century's favorite authors. The beloved Susan B. Anthony, whose birthplace museum is in Adams, Mass., is not primarily known as an author, but guess what? Writing was an indispensable part of her identity and effectiveness. Massachusetts Historical Society has stepped out with programming, on-site exhibitions, and the kind of scholarship that brings house museums and their stories to life, so it's great to be doing this series with them. The Housing Our History Facebook community, since 2011, has posted hundreds of reviews of house museums and historicals, thousands of photos. The Mass History Alliance represents a rising tide of advocacy and reflection. Why it matters? Harvard professor Robert Putnam, in his sequel to the famous Bowling Alone, argues that our nation has had multiple pendulum swings between being me-centered and we-centered. We are at the end of a me-centered cycle that began in the 60s. Getting from me to we is going to take massive infusions of civic attachment. What better place to begin than by embracing Learn Local in all its degrees, bringing the power of local history to the classroom? So let's hear from our fabulous guests.